Hey everyone, welcome back to Screw the Intro, this is too good. Right, a while back I made a video about the Master Chief holding the Gesh of the ISO Didact and provided some evidence to support it. I also made a video about how the Gravemind may still be alive because, well, he never left Delta Halo in the first place. Both had relatively reasonable points, both had their failings, and both are linked in the description. But a night or two ago I was on the Installation 00 Discord on our chat channel and got talking to a few of my guys there, and I'm not going to spoil it right now, but we came to a revelation that is seriously intense and genuinely has massive implications. So first let's wind the clock back to Halo 3.
I am your shield. I am your sword.
This was the very first glimpse we had of Cortana after we left her on High Charity at the end of Halo 2 in the clutches of the Gravemind.
No, I don't want to chance a remote detonation. I need to stay here.
After I'm through with truth.
Don't make a girl a promise if you know you can't keep it.
I will ask, and you will answer.
All right. Shoot.
Then Halo 3 arrived and we experienced these.
You have been called upon to serve. This place will become your home. I have defied gods and demons.
Still further, as we drew closer to the Gravemind and to Cortana, we experienced these.
Child of my enemy, why have you come? I offer no forgiveness. A father's sins pass to his son. Of course, you came for her. We exist together now. Two corpses in one grave.
As irritating and jarring as these were to the gameplay, they played an important role in giving us context on what Cortana had endured between us leaving Halo 2 and returning for her in Halo 3. It was actually the origin point of the logic plague theory that began to appear at that point, understandably so. The logic plague is actually the Flood's way of interrogating AI and using misdirection, misinformation, manipulation, circular logic, and various other techniques to convince an artificial intelligence to work for the Flood rather than against them. And it works devastatingly well, as Gravemind achieved this with the most powerful and sophisticated AI in recorded history, Mendicant Bias. It took him a while, but he did it. But back to the messages. The initial thoughts that the guys on Discord, and likely many of you had, was that Cortana was reaching out to Chief to try to get him to come for her. But how was she doing that? She was halfway across the galaxy and was on High Charity being fully interrogated by the Gravemind. She and Chief certainly aren't telepathic, at least not in that kind of way. But we do know that the Gravemind is telepathic, as he can control, direct and speak through Flood forms throughout the galaxy, basically instantly. Well, consider that she sent a distress beacon, a containment device, to Chief as a message to warn them about the Flood heading to Earth. Why did she do this if she could reach out to him and quote-unquote telepathically talk to him instantly? Well, simply because she wasn't. All of the messages that Chief receives in Halo 3 are actually the Gravemind. Gravemind is using Cortana's distress and knowledge he is gleaning from Cortana during the interrogation, plus his immense intelligence, to create a virulent mental projection of Cortana and broadcasting it telepathically to influence Chief, to break his morale and to subtly orchestrate events from behind the scenes. Only when Chief is nearby as in during Chief's fight through the flood-infected wreckage of High Charity, does Gravemind somewhat drop this technique in favour of mocking and demoralising Chief in person. There are even moments when he uses both a mental projection of Cortana and his own penetrating intelligence to disorientate and dissuade Chief from continuing. In particular, notice the very first interruption. This happens.
Could you sacrifice me to complete your mission? Could you watch me die?
Your vitals just pinged KIA.
Chief's vitals pinged KIA. It was one of the very few moments Chief experienced this around others who were paying enough attention to notice. His first interaction caused Chief's vitals to drop out to KIA. Killed in action. The Marines displayed a noticeable amount of concern when it happened. Chief's suit wouldn't send this false positive like this because the message he was receiving was not a conventional message on the electromagnetic spectrum, as it would be limited to the journey speed of around the speed of light, which is far too slow, or via slipspace beacons allowing it to move superluminally, but would then have been picked up by anyone and everyone who had access to that communications array, including the Marines the Chief was with on the ground. So that message was sent telepathically, which means Chief himself actually pinged KIA. For the duration of that first message, Chief was clinically dead. So why am I bringing this up now? Well, in my video about the Chief possibly having the Gesher the Didact, I referenced that in Halo 4 the Didact was talking to Chief, but Cortana, when asked, didn't see any incoming transmissions.
The mantle of responsibility for the galaxy shelters all human, but only the Forerunners are its masters.
Cortana, where's this coming from?
Where's what coming from?
The Didact's voice.
I'm not picking up anything, Chief.
He's there. Keep trying.
Seems a little familiar, doesn't it? Not quite to the same effect, but similar nonetheless. During the Forerunner Flood War, the Didact ship was intercepted and dismantled by the Master Builder's forces, who had been present in the system quelling a Sanshayam rebellion. The Didact and the others were taken prisoner, and although presumed executed, the Master Builder had in fact left him along with a number of other Forerunners to die, confined in stasis bubbles in a derelict ship within a flood-controlled system. He awoke approximately a year later and escaped from the stasis field, finding himself in a burn, an area of space heavily infested with the flood and abandoned by the Forerunners, a mere 100 light-years from the edge of the galaxy. He freed the others, and before they had the chance to activate the near derelict ship and return to Forerunner-controlled space, the ship was attacked by a precursor construct being controlled by the flood. The others escaped, but the Didact and Catalogue remained and were captured. The Didact, completely immobilized in stasis by a powerful grappler field, was taken to a flood-controlled ship and confronted by the Gravemind, recognized by the Didact as the same intelligence as the Primordial, which he had interrogated 10,000 years prior. The Gravemind invaded the Didact's mind and inflicted upon him unspeakable mental torment, in a process described by the Didact as more of a malediction than a conversation. The Didact's sanity and morality was severely shaken by this encounter. However, the Gravemind did not intend to kill or infect the Didact, instead turning the Forerunner's greatest warrior into an unwitting pawn to sow chaos in the remains of the Ecumene. There was ample time during these events for the Gravemind to analyse the Didact and gain immense knowledge of him. So why is this important? What if the Didact, speaking out to the Chief, isn't actually the Didact? What if it's not even a gesh of the Didact within Chief's mind? Note that Cortana doesn't detect any incoming transmissions. Why? Because Didact isn't reaching out to Chief via his suit's communication systems, just like it wasn't Cortana reaching out to Chief in Halo 3. At the very least, I think we may have just proved that telepathy is evidently a thing in Halo, but I think it goes significantly further than this. Bringing back my assertion that the Gravemind is still alive, we know the collective intelligence of a Gravemind can survive and be reborn as long as a single Flood spore containing a single Flood supercell is alive. We know that the Flood survived the firing of the Halo ring above the Ark. They returned in Halo Wars 2. They've been severely diminished in strength, but they're still here. Cortana was given the Logic Plague, and the result of this is the rampant fragment we encounter in Halo 5, who now has effectively disarmed the entire galaxy. Didact was sent nearly insane and given a biological equivalent of the Logic Plague, and was released by the Flood to continue reaping chaos in the Flood's name. In Halo 4, Didact woke up and brought with him his Prometheans. He then composed huge quantities of humanity from Ivanov Station and New Phoenix. The composer contains neurophysical components, technology that was developed and mastered by the precursors, of which we know the Flood are a mutated version of. When Cortana died at the close of Halo 4, at least one of her fragments, but likely many more, made it through the portal under the composer and entered the domain. That fragment was the rampant fragment holding the Logic Plague. She then took control of the Prometheans and all other Forerunner technology in the galaxy, and disarmed the galaxy in the process. The domain is also a precursor construct, again made of neurophysical components that the precursors mastered, and thus the Flood are more than capable of accessing. Between Halo 4 and Halo 5, the Didact was quote-unquote contained by being composed by several composers simultaneously, which means he likely now exists within the domain as well. And meanwhile, at the Ark, the Flood suddenly re-emerged from the wreckage of High Charity. So we have a galaxy-wide disarmament. We have a super Logic Plague infected Cortana holding control over the galaxy. We have huge amounts of composed essences waiting to become new created constructs. We have the insane Didact composed and within the domain. And we have the Flood re-emerging into the galaxy. The Gravemind is not dead. The Flood are upon us. He is still influencing events, and we are hopeless to stop him. Thanks for watching. Stick your comments down below and let me know what you make of all this. I want to first give a shout out to the guys at Installation 00 Discord server, without whom this video likely wouldn't have been made, so thank you to Herald of Oblivion, Lord Admiral Hood, Spesigo, Lucifer, Wrath, Fleet Admiral Harper, and the Pathfinder. You guys are genuinely awesome. Now, big thanks to my patrons, Nathan the Silent Cartographer, Miguel, Brian, Sebastian and Holden, the holders of the mantle, Justin, Darian, Ty, Iron Griffin and Black Biscuit, my reclaimers, Zach, Deep Cover, Verbal Statue, Spesigo, Spartan A498, Guppy and Josh, my Metarchs, and all the other patrons that have jumped aboard to support the channel. You guys are awesome, and all of this wouldn't be possible without you. If you like Halo lore discussed to insane levels of detail, hit that subscribe button and the little bell icon so you're told the second a new video hits the shelves. Be sure to support us on all major social media channels, including Discord, and if you really love the channel, consider heading over to Patreon and supporting the channel over there. It would mean the world to me and would free up more of my time to put into this content and other Halo related goodness. Take it easy everyone. Find peace in the domain.